Hey, it's Kellen. And today on Diversified Game, get your pen and your pad ready, you guys. I have Miss Camille Hall, who is going to show us how she makes money on the front end, possibly on the back end development. For all I know, she might be a full stack developer. We're going to find out, how do you make money? She has a website that the link is in the description box called creativeambition.net. But she is the person, whenever you have a good idea, you need a great software engineer that's reliable. So Camille, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing really good this morning.
I'm
Feeling peaceful and calm with all this rain that's coming down. So.
okay. Well, you're going back to your Seattle days. You brought the rain probably to Austin. And we know Texas, they pray for rain in certain places. So.
At least we're getting it on Earth Day too, so that helps.
Oh man. Now, I want everybody, you are a software engineer, and we're not going to give them the full, lesson on this is what a front end, back end, and I don't do this, but I do that. But what I want you to get into in this interview is what you love to do, and how did you start getting into being a software engineer? Because there's not, the majority of software engineers probably don't look like you and aren't even as young as you. So how did you start with this journey?
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. I know the next generation, they're all into tech right now, so hopefully they're coming along. But my journey actually did start with MySpace. Got to bring it back. We're gonna bring it back to MySpace. Everyone was so obsessed with how their page looked and making sure like they had the music come in on their page as soon as you enter it, sparkles or whatever coming down on the page, everything. So I was really just into my page looking really nice when my friends and whoever came to visit my MySpace page. And then I also had, Black Planet page. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but same thing there. I had to get all the special effects, and that literally just sparked everything for me. Like, I was editing HTML using just a plain text editor at that point because I didn't know any better. So I think it was actually even better learning that way because you're literally learning from scratch. And then back at that point, if you wanted to style anything, you had to use like CSS. But at that point, I was just using inline CSS. I don't even know if CSS was like really a big thing at that point. Probably was, but I was like in high school, so I didn't know too much about it. Um, and that just really sparked my passion for web development. Um, and from there in Seattle, there was, and they still might be there, they're called OSC, Occupational Skills Center, out in SeaTac, Washington. Represent. I was going to them as a high school afternoon program, and my skill set was they would teach me web development. So that's where I really started taking it a little bit more serious in high school.
Okay. And so really, I mean, social media sparked a whole career for you. So, I mean, you found interest in that and just wanted to keep learning and learning. You know, did you go to an advanced high school, or was it just part of the regular curriculum?
Yeah, so that's a really good point because you have to be you have to put a lot of initiative out there. So my high school was just traditional high school. I was not in AP courses at all. Like, I was just in basic classes. But when I started really getting into this MySpace and Black Planet customization, that's where I started to look and see what resources I can find to propel myself into that direction. And so I think I may have scheduled an appointment with my counselor, but I also did my own research because sometimes, at least in my experience, my counselors were not, I was just one of 1,000, they really didn't give me too much attention and too much time. So I had to really come in prepared and know what I want and present that to them and make sure that we're on the same page. So it was something that I had to put an initiative and make sure that I was put into this program, but it was not going to happen to me unless I went up there and let them know I was interested. So that's a big key takeaway that I would tell, other young adults, other students and whatnot, is just to really put an initiative out there. Um, Especially even with my parent, my mother, she didn't really know too much about these after school programs, so it's not even like I had that support to kind of push me in the right direction. I didn't have that counselor support. So you just really, if you really want to do something, you're going to have to go and get it by any means possible.
Definitely, definitely. And I love that because I know, social media, but it was, I'll date myself now, but it was even before the MySpace and the Black Planet days of, being a young kid, having a computer and on the Yahoo Messenger, learning how to type because of the trolls and wanting to, do it in English and in Spanish real quick. And probably being a little thirsty, if I'm being honest, even at a young age, like, hold on, I want to say this quickly in whichever language. So, that sparks, being able how to, be what we're doing now. With that program though, how long was that program and when do you think that you became like really, like getting to know the program well? I don't want to say an expert because you're always forever learning with technology, but how long did it take to say, oh, wow, I'm building more than just a Black Planet page or a MySpace page?
So I think the program itself was the whole school year, probably September to June type of time frame. And I just did just that one school year, I believe. It may have been 2 years. Memory serves me right. But as far as when I felt comfortable with building websites, it took some time. Like even with that course, we built an entire website. I built a clothing store. I think it was, I forget what it was called, but it was like Lemonade Clothing Store. It was something related to that. Way before the Beyoncés, way before the Lululemons, I had a little scratch clothing store that I created. But even at that point, I still wanted to learn more. And that's when at that point, I think I was a junior, maybe senior at that point. And that's when I started looking into what can I learn at college. So I literally just went from that program and then enrolled myself into secondary education to get that additional learning. So even at that point, I still didn't feel comfortable like building web pages. I only felt comfortable like dealing with MySpace and Black Planet. So my story is like very non-traditional as well. There was a lot of stops and go within my software engineer life cycle. And that's something that too, I think a lot of people can gain a message from, because it wasn't just a smooth hill. Like I went to high school, college, and then I'm making X amount of money as a software engineer. There was definitely some lessons and strides and things that I needed to learn that actually help now in my position as a software engineer.
Now you said money. So that is one of the things that we love to talk about. And with the money, I remember there were people even back then who could set your page up, hook you up. There were things that, templates or whatever things you could buy. When the MySpace days, there were bots you could buy. Oh, I miss MySpace because Facebook won't let you do half of what MySpace will allow you to do. But when did it come to a point where you said, wait, I can get paid for this? Were you in high school, in college, or was it after college to where you made your first, dollar?
It was during high school, during the MySpace times where I was hustling, had little side hustles to make just money so I could go shopping and stuff like that at that point. And it was just a little bit of money, a little chump change, but it was still like a nice trade, and they were happy with their page, and it still gave me some skills that I could take and use from there. But again, that was a little play money. So it didn't really get serious with the money until um, I'd say way after college, when I actually was like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to really, um, that's when I started learning back end as well as front end. Because up until that point, I was very much just a front end person. But the last 2 years, that's when I started delving more into the back end and was able to put those two together, plus a little bit of like UI and a little bit of UX training, which is like user interface, and then user experience training to really kind of give myself a lot of skill sets that could be very, that could work well in multiple different team settings. So that's when I started making the big money. It was way after college, once I
Okay.
actually got serious with this.
Okay, so you are the person that every entrepreneur, we have entrepreneurs on here, and everybody, not everyone's a creative, but every creative needs a software engineer. So, like I said, her website, the link is in the description. But before you go, hit her up and start asking a million questions. Let me ask them for you. And when business comes to you, what are the first things that you need to know besides their budget? Because I tell people you're always building a house, but what do they need to have ready before, even sending you an email? And then I'm going to get into some of your, like, what are the pet peeves of don't do this if you contact me?
So as far as what they need to have ready, they really just need to have ready their brainstorming and the planning, and just really have a solid foundation of what their product is, what are their customers look like, especially the customers. I need to know who your audience is so I can build this for your audience preference. Because if we're building something and the front end just doesn't really vibe with your audience, let's say your audience is geared towards those 60 plus. Well, I don't want to build a front end that has so much going on. It's just really noisy. There's all these animations. There's like the user experience of it may be a little bit too much to grasp for someone who didn't grow up with a computer attached to their hips. So we want to just scale it down if we're working towards that audience. Or if the audience was more like a college demographic, then we can go ahead and do all the bells and whistles, and we anticipate that they're going to know how to navigate this kind of website. So definitely, if you're going to go to any software engineer, even myself, I need to know who the audience is so I can plan better and really customize this for your benefit and for theirs, so that they do not leave your website immediately upon getting there.
Mhm.
As well, I would say, what's your time frame looking like? Because that as well is going to dictate what this website is going to look like and how much we can really put into it. And the time frame also does dictate the budget. If you're really on a crunch, that definitely may put a lot more stress on the engineers and those involved. So we may want to be sure that we're compensated enough so that we can be motivated and get this done at a very small turnaround time. As far as I say you don't necessarily need to have an online presence yet. I've worked with clients that literally have no online presence, but that's where I need to know all of your business plan as far as who your audience is, and kind of your ideas. I need to at least have that set, and then I'll work with them step by step from the user experience. I'll get all their demographics. I'll know who we're targeting this for. At that point, then I'll build them a visual mock-up, like a wireframes and prototypes, that they can actually see, okay, this is how I see your website when we first get there. Most customers are going to click on this because it's right there in front of their face, or it's a call to action, et cetera, et cetera. So I just kind of walk them through this process so they can visually see this before we start implementing, before we actually lay down any code. Because that's just a waste of time if you're coding and you show your client and they're like, I don't like any of this. You just wasted all that time coding. And that's where I feel like my skills with graphic design plus coding really help all in all, because I can literally help clients from start to finish, literally with their graphic design needs, their visual needs, their front end needs, as well as implementing the back end when we're coding and doing all that. So it's yeah, really the end to end business solution for creative ambition is how I envision everything.
Okay.
I got a little serious on you, but I had to let the people know.
Let them know because I find that, the more information you give, the better potential email or phone call, however people contact you, social media. Because for me as a consultant, I tell people, I just send links and say, this is what we do. I don't even talk anymore. I sometimes don't even pick up my phone because I have this automatic thing. And I want, you to really, sell this because everybody needs this. And every week, but I just had someone not yesterday, last night, since I haven't slept, my friend in London was like, hey, I want to build this platform. Do you know any coders who understand blockchain? And she had another thing that she needed. And I said, yeah, I know some people. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people who know that. What's your budget? So can you let the folks know, like my friend Gabs, shout out, what is a good budget? Every project is different, I know, but what is a healthy size budget and time frame for your average project with you?
Oof, with me, my average project. I'd say the time frame average for me has been about 3 to 4 weeks. And that's been literally just building a website, building an online presence for them. Now, if people are talking about like they want to build a mobile app, then again, that's where my preliminary questions are going to come into play, because I need to know, are we talking about Android and iOS, or like what are you talking about? So it's going to heavily depend on those questions that I initially ask my clients. With app development, that I would say would literally take between, again, another 4 to 5 weeks if we're just building a simple app. And it really just depends on how complex this is going to be at this point. Um, and I would say too, as far as complexity, for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think I definitely recommend like getting a freelance software engineer or someone who can work with you independently, as opposed to like signing with the agency to like take over this project, because that's going to be a ton more money working with the agency, especially when you're just starting your business and just want to get your online presence out. Where I feel as a freelancer or someone you hire for contract work, they're going to be a lot quicker to get a hold of, as well as they can get your project done probably within your budget that you're aiming for. Which for like a mobile app, again, a simple one with a regular time frame, I would say, oh, I would not expect it to be less than $2,000 for that kind of work. And again, it just depends heavily on, are they going to just be coding, or is it going to be something like what I do, where I provide all of the front end plus the back end, so a little bit of graphic design is mixed into that. For like a website, those are really kind of easy to make nowadays, especially if you're with a freelancer. Generally, we have our own like code libraries. And so we can literally just import those in and spin up a project very, very quickly, because we already have the code and we just really need to put the styling and change the styling. So that a simple website can be even like $500. And they can make sure that your SEO is optimized so that Google and Bing and all these search engines are able to get to your website and able to see that you have content on there that is fresh and being updated. And so it's a lot, but it is definitely manageable.
Okay. And that's a real, fair starting price. Right now with, the gig economy and people going to sites like Fiverr, they'll say, hey, I saw the service you offered on Fiverr for, $5. And I said, I promise you, you didn't see what I offered for $5 on
Yeah.
Fiverr.
Yeah, it's going to, what your $5 service that they see is probably not going to be at all anything like you would provide them. So it's a matter of quality at that point.
Yeah, and that's fair. And so you've lived here in Seattle. You're now you're back home in Austin, whatnot. Let's talk tech and women. Do you find it difficult, or maybe it's a benefit now to be a woman and a Black woman at that who does this? Because they talk inclusion, diversity in Seattle. And when you work at the companies, which I have, you're like, where is it? And then you're like, where is it? And so, you have, your so many groups, from your Africatown to your Black Dots to your Hack Nations to, I could go on and on, the collective and all that. And these groups, the people are there, and you're like, hey, this one person works in this department. This one person works in that department. Sometimes if you go down to the basement and talk to that other person, it's like, it's not really that hard to find talent that looks like us. But the big corporations, they find it difficult that they can only find one of us, kind of like, they find that one comedian every, 5 to 10 years. But do you find it beneficial to be, Black in coding, or is it more difficult? Do people, do they respect you?
Oh, those are really good questions. Really great questions. I do think right now in this time, there's definitely, like you said, a big push for diversity and inclusion. So that does kind of open the doors a little bit more for Black tech professionals as well as women in tech. That kind of gives us the, like I said, it opens the door, but it does not get you in the door at the same time. You still got to have those skills. They're going to still test you. But it does at least give us a chance to show what we have. It's just like, you need to make sure that you stay ready so you never have to get ready when it comes to tech, because they still will test you in those initial interviews. So yes, I would say definitely the answer is yes. From the point when I was in high school, I don't remember there being a big push for women in technology. I don't remember there being a big push for Blacks in technology. So I have definitely seen that change. And I do think, as far as your second question, when it relates to are you respected and whatnot, I think with anything, respect is earned. I can say from my experience, I think people actually anticipated me being a little not as, I think they kind of expected me not to have the work ethic that I do. I think they were kind of expecting me to be just like average, or like, she can get by. And I think they've been really surprised that I'm very focused, very determined. I'm like laser sharp focused with the work that I do and the details that I put in and the hours that I invest. So I think that was a pleasant surprise when I work with clients and even my current employer. So I think with that, I gained their respect, because they're like, oh, excuse me, she actually knows what she's doing. She's on the ball. She's going above and beyond. So that was the respect that I earned, because, I was putting in that work.
Okay. And I just have to ask, because when my family moved here to Seattle, and I would tell people, hey, my wife works at Swedish, and, she's a radiologist, whatever over there. And people would say, where is she? Because in the radiology room, I only, see like the janitor clean, but she's at the computer. And my wife at Swedish, and at the different hospitals she's worked for UW, they've confused her with the janitor, because, she has her natural hair like yours, and she couldn't be the physician. She had to be the janitor or the CNA. So I just have to ask, I'm like, no, she works there. She's the only black one. And so I just have to ask, because these are real things, and it's kind of insulting when you think that you work so hard to get somewhere, and people, would think that you aren't capable, or you're not going to put in the effort, knowing that you have to put in more effort, because they're looking at you like, oh man, wait for her to give that, that whatever stereotypes people have, and they truly have them. And anybody who says, oh, here you guys go playing the race card, you've never had to deal with the effects. So you're more mad about someone highlighting the issue. And that's the whole thing with the inclusion and diversity. They want to put somebody there, but they don't want to change the culture to make it comfortable. And, So, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But,
that's definitely huge. The culture does have to, once you're actually in working with the company, the culture does have to be key. I will say, I'm not going to name the company, but I've known people to work at a very large corporation there in Seattle, and they make great money as software engineers. But unfortunately, the culture was very toxic in the workplace, to the point where they said it's not even worth the money at this point. Luckily for me, I have not had that working with startups and tech. I feel it's a little bit more of a lax culture, a little bit more of accepting culture in startups, which I really do like. So.
Okay, and you don't have to mention Microsoft or Amazon's name. You don't have to do it. I'll do it for you, because it's either one of those two. if they're big out here, and that's just that's just the game. And Facebook will add you there too, but, and it's really not that difficult. I find it funny when they hire the diversity person, and the diversity person doesn't have to be a minority, but it helps. But even if they are a minority, pick the one that has a voice of a minority, not one that is trying to fit in and assimilate. And, well, I don't know if, and your voice can be like that, but you can still be like, this can't go on and it be comfortable for everyone. Because I've sat at Synology, and I'm the only PR person in the whole, marketing, whatever department. And they'd go out to lunch and nobody would say, hey, you want to go? And I just got there, and we know in Seattle, this is a cold place in general. I mean, they social distance on a good day. So the Rona ain't stopped or changed anything for those of us who always work at home. And, but Seattle it's a great place for tech, and it's a great place for business, and you're guaranteed to learn something and learn, but you have to kind of just, find your tribe, because the people. And talk about finding your tribe. One of your goals is to, travel the world and speak at conferences. And I want to know, what are your favorite conferences? And I also want to know the follow-up, what conference is better, South by Southwest, CES, or Afrotech? Because I'm sure you've been to one of the three.
Oh my gosh, yes, I've been to the South by Southwest, so that's really the only one I can talk about. But I really do want to go to the Afrotech, really, really bad. CES, we had people from my company go out, but I did not get to go. But I think that would be probably one of the biggest ones that highlight a lot of technologies that are going to be released. So that's a really, really tough decision. I'll have to just experience them all. You guys can email me invites to all of them. I will fly. Look, now I'm trying to get all the little plugs in, but yes, I do definitely have my idea with tech, and where I want to go is I do want to be someone to advocate brown and Black people to get into tech. So that's why I want to do a lot of speaking engagements, but I also want to kind of mix it up. I do love astrology a lot. And I think that if people really knew in depth their astrology natal chart, I think they can own in on some of those strengths that they have and be able to, use that in, career sector, even in relationship sectors, but I'll probably just more so be talking on the career sector. So I kind of want to mix that in some of my talks. Um, and kind of piggybacking on me advocating for, Black and brown people to get into tech, I really do think that it's something very beneficial that they should get into. And when I speak with people about it, I generally try to challenge them at all times. Like, for example, I'll have someone reach out to me, maybe like on Twitter or something, and they'll be commenting on a Twitter post that I put on about maybe like a course that people should take, like an online course. And they'll ask me a question about the online course. And my response is, well, if you can find that information that you just asked me on the online course description, anywhere online, that should be something you should investigate for yourself. Because in tech, and literally in my role, I have to go out and seek all the answers to all my problems and all my decisions. So you really just have to get comfortable with investigating, doing research on your own, figuring out those problems on your own, putting missing puzzle pieces together. And you can't rely on someone to keep feeding you the answers. So that's kind of my thing. I don't feed people answers when I communicate with them. If it's something I know that they can go and find themselves, because I want to get them in the habit of, you got to be able to use your resources and look for that information because it's right there.
Oh, man, preach. It's a Google away is what I tell people. And it bothers me when people ask you something that they could Google, because I'm not Google, but I am expensive. So let me send you an invoice to answer what Google or some YouTube video has already said. And it's the reason why I think, everyone should have a YouTube, because if you have a skill set, you can just refer 100,000 people to the same video, and eventually you'll start making money. Monetizing your life is what we call it here. I'm surprised you gave Twitter a shout out, because I saw that your account was suspended, and I was going to ask, like, how did you get your account suspended, or did you just create a new account?
No, my account is Hey Camille for Twitter and for Instagram.
Okay.
And there's like 3 underscores and with the Hey Camille, but no, I've not yet had any kind of suspension on Twitter and social media in general, just because I really only go on there for a purpose. So.
Okay, and I was going off your website, and I was just clicking, and it was Camille Hall 12, and it was like suspended. I'm like, what did she do?
Oh, that's because I did the name change like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
That's a good catch. Okay. It used to be that Twitter handle, but then I changed it to Hey Camille to make things a little bit more consistent. But thank you for catching that.
Okay, we just don't like to get the game. We like to give it. And I want to even go deeper into, the speaking. Since you do want to become a speaker, are you currently, well, we're on lockdown right now, but Texas is open. Have you looked into the, not just the TED Talks, but the Toastmasters? Have you done any of that?
No, I have not. I actually don't know anything about that. So I'm over here trying to open up my notes so I can put that in.
You take notes, and I'll send you some links, because for our clients, I always tell them Toastmasters is your first step to professionally speaking. And, this is just the beginning. This is what Les Brown and everybody has done, and they're still a part of the Tony Robbins, all that. They are part of that. So yeah, because you said travel around the world. Where's your favorite place that you've traveled thus far?
Favorite, hands down, would be the southern region of Africa. Went to 4 different countries, starting with South Africa, Mozambique, Lesotho, and then Swaziland. So that was definitely my favorite experience, hands down. There's so much more in Africa that I can go and travel and see. So that'll definitely be on my my places to go. Because I know for a lot of tech conferences, they're starting to do a lot in like Western Africa. I'm trying to think, where have I seen them?
Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely in Nigeria. They've been on with the tech scene for quite a while, so people should not sleep on them. So
Yeah, YouTube even has a base. So the YouTubers in Nigeria actually have folks that can help them, and they have different, events. And so that it's a beautiful thing. Now, can you get a hold of them? No, I'm talking about them too, because you know I represent YouTubers, so it's like I have a YouTube manager, so I'm like, connect me with Nigeria, and they give me the emails, but for some reason, those folks don't answer or don't answer in reply. And that's something that, everyone should do, especially in the tech space. But tell the audience, going to Africa, I assume this was a vacation and not like a mission trip or military trip. So you probably had, freedom to do as you like. What was it? Because I'm Mr. Africa. If you see, if I showed you around my thing, you'd be like, hey man, this guy has all the African flags, and you can see right here, Ethiopian jersey. What was it about Africa that made it your favorite place thus far?
um, honestly, I think it was the nature. I know it sounds a little odd because you get nature anywhere, but literally, I just felt like I was in a, a very natural home kind of land. As far as like, it was my first time. For example, we were staying in I forget what they call it, but like this resort way in like Swaziland. And it was just literally, we're staying in adobe like huts and whatnot. There's no electricity. I don't know if there's running water there. And we actually did pay for the experience. And we're just out in this big, vast land with wild animals behind the gate, luckily. But when it was actually nightfall, that's when I looked up into the sky and I literally saw, it felt like every star in the galaxy I could see. And they were just so intense and so bright. And I still, to this day, have never seen a sight like that except when I was there in Swaziland. So it's just being out in nature and having everything in its natural form is what felt very at home and at peace for me. It just felt like everyone was more doing things and wearing things that was a little bit more natural and
Mhm.
not man-made and man-constructed and man-conditioned in a way.
Okay, man, you got out of Swaziland without becoming a princess, since there's a 100+ wives out there.
We did see that.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Did you go to Joburg as well?
yeah, definitely.
Okay, okay. And did you like Joburg?
It was fine. It was more city oriented, so I'm kind of used to that vibe, but it was
Okay.
good.
When you were going through Mozambique and all these countries, could you see like where, as a tech professional, you could win and say, I could come out here and probably just kill the game, whether it was, teaching or creating a business? I mean, was that something you could see?
At that point, no, but in hindsight, yes. At that point, I was just living life and enjoying my stay. I wasn't really thinking about tech when I was out there on vacation. I was more so thinking about liberation and being free and just really trying to find my way and things like that. But in hindsight, I do see that a lot of people don't have an online business presence. So that, and for anyone in marketing, anyone in software engineering, um, anyone that wants a mobile app, anything like that, I feel like that is a place where you can get that up and running and that you can win because a lot of people don't have that. Um,
Mhm.
so
Eh,
that's probably the only thing I noticed about tech in hindsight.
Oh, okay. And I'm probably bother you later because Africa is so wide open, and I think it might be 15, it might be 15 days, it could be 15 years, but a lot of Black Americans go to Africa and say, "Oh, I feel free, I feel liberated," but you could stay if you could make money, but you can't be looking for a job. You have to create a business because there's enough people looking for a job, and you have to, bring some special skill sets. But I love South Africa, but I love all of Africa. I haven't been to a country yet that I'm like, I would never go back here and have some land there. But that's a whole nother thing. What is your community give back with everything that you do? You're making money and you're talented. What's the community give back?
For me, it's two things. One is that example that I gave you of people reaching out to me on Twitter. I am very accessible, so whether it's Twitter or LinkedIn is usually where I get people asking me questions. I'll provide them the resources that I have, as well as, challenging them. So I'm not going to give you all the answers. You have to do the work and really prepare yourself. But then secondly, one of my other things I always love to do is to write. And so now I've just kind of more so been focusing my writing on lifestyle and tech. So how to get into tech, but really writing it from a very easy to digest point of view instead of very high technical way. Just so I can relate to people and get them into that. And I'm sure more in my future writings, I'll probably be writing a little bit more technical and getting them used to that kind of language. So with that, that's my give back as well, as like providing them the steps. This is how you can get into tech, because tech is super lucrative and it's a job that's never going away. It's a job that is going to be recession proof and corona proof, so I really advocate people to get into that. And, in the future, when I start doing a lot more speaking engagements as well, that's going to be me doing more outreach and getting more brown and Black people into tech, because I feel like we already have the skills. Myself, for many years, I was working in the call center. And that required you being able to type quickly, being able to communicate. Those are two things that you're going to need into tech, is to be able to type accurately and correctly, because if you don't, you're going to have bugs that you run into, and you're going to have to, learn those lessons. And as well, you need to communicate, because when it comes down to it, the program languages are literally just communicative languages. You just need training to memorize what you're doing, but in essence, you're just giving the computer instructions. So you got to be a good communicator.
Okay. What are your thoughts? You have people like Mark Cuban and others, and so many books. The Future is Faster Than You Think, which is a book I finished a few weeks ago, and I love it. But it talks about how everyone was pushing, hey, STEM, but now they're saying automation is coming and it's going to take over these jobs. And I can't wait for it to come take over what we do, because I already have it in my mind how that would look, because of it's an algorithm game and the computer is always going to win that game. But what do you think about, automation in the next, let's say, 20 years taking over? And do you think that is true, or do you think there's always going to be a human element needed for what you do?
I definitely think there always should be a human element within it. I can't say there always will be, but I think with all automation, I do think it's going to be a little bit more seen in different devices and different things that we communicate and come into contact with. So that is a really good option to get into tech, especially if you're into, even like robotics or self-driving cars or anything of that nature. If you're interested in those things, definitely get into those fields, because they'll be taking off. But I do have to say, I think we just need to be responsible when we are automating things, because you don't want it to get to the point where the computer controls the world. That's, you don't want an iRobot situation. So there definitely needs to be responsibility in the things that we create. So I will just add that little tidbit.
Okay. Well, you might want to, everywhere you go and speak, talk about that. I know the comedian Bill Burr in his latest thing, he was talking about how he was watching TV and he said the robot was like, they were asking the robot, what is your goal? And it's like, to be smarter than humans. And he was like, somebody unplug that thing. Like, haven't we seen this in every movie? And, you know, when is it where, you know, the robot starts slapping somebody?
Yeah.
And goes, yeah, with the iRobot.
That's what they call the, machine learning, which is really, really popular right now. The machine learning, I look at it as a mother to a child. Like I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I kind of see the similarities between a developer and machine learning as far as you're literally programming this computer with enough information that it starts to learn and get and do research and kind of gain and see the trends of whatever topic you're giving it. And it kind of starts to learn on its own. And the same with a child, you're giving that child information. And this is really important with parenting, because you want to feed your child the right information, and you want to provide them all the essential positive things that you can. Because if you're conditioning your child to be this one way, they're going to keep learning and learning and learning to be that kind of way. And the same with the computer. So I think all humans in every aspect really needs to be very conscious about what they're putting into their computer or their children. We need to be responsible and just think of this long term, about the long term effects of what this is gonna be for whichever.
Have you seen the new Child's Play movie?
Oh my gosh, no. I didn't even know they're still doing those.
You have to see it. Like I've missed maybe the last two, but I remember Chucky because I had my buddy, and that was the thing, right? But the new Child's Play, and I don't want to give too much away, but why it's great, because the new My Buddy is basically Siri. And it can turn on your TV, it can do this, and can do that. And the reason why, of course, Chucky has to go, all the way left, is because of what we humans taught him. What he saw us watching, he then wanted to do, because we're laughing at stuff that is gruesome and, and bloody, especially in America, because my international audience will say, no, that's not what we do. But
in America, yeah.
Yeah, in America. So you got to see that movie. It's a good one.
I'm definitely gonna check it out. It sounds like something I'd be interested in.
Yeah, and if you have a doll, you might at night you might say, hold on, let me put this in the toy box and see if it comes out. And if I see it anywhere else.
I watched Toy Story 3 with my daughter this weekend, and I was already side-eyeing the toys. And that's a pretty good movie, but I was like, I know y'all be moving when I leave the room.
I do that with mine too. It's some stuff I say, we can't watch that. I want to see now. It scared me as a kid. I don't want to see that now. And I can remember it, but no, that's a beautiful thing. And I don't want to give the people a game overload, so I'm going to cut it there. But I do want to say this, folks. Camille proves that just because you're on the computer does not mean that you're out of shape. Through this whole interview, you see her muscle. I mean, her guns are out there.
A little something there.
Yeah. So I thank you for coming on. I want to talk to you after as well, but I thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun. Seems like it's something we should do again.
We can do this. I can go on and on and on and on. So, it don't stop. So you guys like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Inspire somebody by giving this information to somebody who they love the computers. They love the graphics. And so they can see a plan on how they can go to the next level. You guys be blessed.